that was conducive when you work with children. And because of that, I knew that I had to find out what was wrong with me. But before I stopped working, I had been on antidepressants and mental health medication for nearly 35 years. You know, as individuals, we're the only people who know deep within us how we feel. You know, a doctor can diagnose something based on the symptoms you tell them, but only you can talk to people and say, this, I don't like how I feel. How can I make this better? And that was what I was trying to do um, when I stopped working and went on benefits. You know, the payments I told you that um, I'm on. I'll give you an example. When when I was at work and I'm addressing students and they come up to me with a query, I will probably say to them, oh, who are you? I couldn't remember who that person was. Or I'll call them the wrong name. And one of the issues with that was that there was something wrong with my brain. I just didn't know it. But I had a hidden disability. And there my interest grew from having these symptoms and to be a librarian and working within the information field. I said, okay, this can help somebody. This can help me as well to improve myself, and hence why I am here today. So I'm hoping that in the coming weeks I can be stable enough to create content that will showcase what I'm all about. As you know, most Africans, I personally, in the research I did, I found out that my mother had an ancestry that was linked to slavery. My mother comes from a part of Nigeria called Isaleko, Lagos Island. And in a particular part of Lagos, there's an area called where the people that are called Agudas live. And the Agudas in history are what you call returnees from slave plantations. And that's where my mother grew up. So on the back of that, I decided to undertake an ancestry and 23andMe to try to understand, look into my genetics, and said, you know, there are some conditions that I'm not sure of, that although I live in an advanced country, I don't have equitable access to resources that would help me find out about this. If I was still working full time, I wouldn't have been able to do this, and there began my journey. So most of my content, one of my reels or my posts, I talk about things that relate to the brain. And for example, one of the things I've learned is that my amygdala is in control of how I fear things, you know. And your amygdala tells you that you should be scared of this situation, of this person, of this environment, because you've had previous experiences stored in something called the hippocampus. Everybody has an hippocampus in their brain. Sorry, I don't mean to appear like I'm saying I know it all. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to explain that in the hippocampus, there's a bank, there's a library of your life experiences, life emotions, life, you know, anything that makes you tick. And when you encounter these things in an environment that makes you scared, you know, you react. And why do I tie this into intergenerational trauma? I'm looking at most, like as I said, my mother had a background from slavery, and I'm wondering, is this in my DNA? Some of the issues I had was with temper, with annoyance, with reactions, and I was wondering, is there a connection between that and me? And that is where everything started. So I don't know how I can make this less academic or less boring, but that is just how I wanted to introduce myself. You know, I'll be talking about events that I've been through in life that have impacted my body, impacted my brain. I will go through things like DNA. I will go through things like my intergenerational traumas, what I inherited from my parents, and also hidden disabilities. And I think one of my fears for the African community, I mean, I don't want to sound pompous, is that a lot of us are not aware that we can dig deep and find out what is wrong with us before it becomes a problem in older age. I, for one, I did conduct a search on certain um, in my DNA, and I found out I had about 8 hidden conditions, and these conditions limit what I can do in life. So I'm hoping that if I talk about them, maybe it would ring a bell somewhere and help someone. So I'm going to leave you there, and hopefully that if you ever touch upon any of my content, you will see what I'm about. And I wish you a wonderful day. And this again is Falaremi Speaks. Take care of yourself now.